You're listening to the Outdoors Channel.
We want to be free.
Who? What? The work of a genius.
I think it's a splendid idea.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoors Channel and our latest Sea Kayak podcast. And this one is a real cracker. Host Simon Willis this time is on the Isle of Mull for the Storm Gathering, which is a huge get-together for all those involved or interested in sea kayaking. In this programme, he speaks to one of the UK's top kayakers, Nick Cunliffe, who tells us why more hill walkers and mountaineers are getting into sea kayaking. Jeff Allen describes an astonishing circumnavigation of South Georgia in the South Atlantic, and Barry Shaw takes us on a beer-drinking, record-breaking tour of the British coast. He also talks to filmmaker Justine Kirkenden, who explains how she records the amazing sequences which feature in her sea kayaking DVDs that have done so much to popularise the sport. But first, as always, a bit of music to set the scene. From the Podsafe Music Network, Isla Brown, If I Was a River.
If I was the sun, I would shine my light to light your world. And if I was the rain, I would wash your tears away. I'll keep your world right. Be your light in the night. If I was the sky, I would rain down love into your life. Oh, if I was a river, you would be my ocean. Every stream would lead me to your arms. And if I was a river, I'd flow to you forever. Love and run forever in this heart of mine. If I was a river, yeah. If I was the wind, I would carry you above the clouds. And if I was the earth, I would be your solid ground. If I could, I'll be all you ever would need. I would be your world. You're the only world there is for me. Oh, if I was a river, you'd be my ocean. If I was a river, forever in this heart of
Hello and welcome to another podcast in association with SeaKayakRoutes.com. I'm Simon Willis and I'm on the Hebridean island of Mull. To my west is the historic island of Iona, and beyond that, nothing much before you get to Canada. And there's not a lot to the south and north either. And if it sounds a bit windy in the background, it's because it is. I'm here for a sea kayaking symposium. That's a sort of learning get-together. But many of the people who are meant to be here are not, because their ferry is stuck in Oban. I got here late last night. That was Friday night. It's now early Saturday morning. I'm going to go find the organiser, Mark Tozer, because I want to ask him why he decided to call this, with amazing prescience, the Storm Gathering.
The name came from a chap in Norway called Eyvind, who runs his own sea kayaking company. And at the end of each season, all the sea kayak guides in Norway get together for a very big party to celebrate before they are thrown into total darkness. And I really just thought, what a fantastic idea. And we very rarely do something like this in the UK. So it was a thought, well, why don't we give it a go? Hence the first UK storm gathering.
So is it only for the top kayakers in the UK?
No, the intention behind it is to get people here who are prepared to stretch themselves a little bit. So if somebody who's a 3-star paddler and has never experienced challenging conditions, that we can put them in a situation to nurture them to the next step. But also to bring together like-minded paddlers who have already taken those challenges a bit further and share those experiences. Because we'd all like to perhaps, embrace the elements and go that one step beyond. But who do we do it with?
Do you think you were tempting fate a bit when you called it Storm Gathering, given that half the group seemed to be still stuck in Oban?
Well, they do say something about who owns the waves, and I think that's more Cal Mack, who own the transport. But yes, there's going to be an element of comparison between the name and the impending storm that's on the horizon.
It was rather windy last night. But you've worked out here, and I suppose you know as well as I live quite local to here, you know as well as I do how quickly things change here.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, to encourage people to have an open mind. As many of the guest coaches said last night, well, there's always somewhere we can paddle. Once I've got everybody on the island and everybody settled in, then the rest will run out and play the game,
Once you've got them here, it sounds like a bit of a stressful time for you. Just this morning as we wait here, what is it? Let's look at about 20 to 8. Yeah. Nobody's around yet. Calm before the storm.
It's the calm before the storm gathering, definitely. I think this is going to be a test of my organisational skills to ensure that the people who are here get active, and the people that will be arriving probably now by midday have the opportunity to get on the water this afternoon. And symposiums are generally structured around trips and workshops. The workshops are intended to, entertain, amuse, but also develop people's skills. And the trips are there for people who've not been to an area before but want to learn more about it from the local expertise. The way I've structured the storm gathering workshops is that each day is a progression from the last, and that today is about warming people up, developing their skills and tuning them to be paddling in these conditions. Tomorrow is about going away on a trip, making sure that you have the right navigational knowledge, the right planning knowledge. And then Monday it's the backup. Well, what happens if I end up in the water? What happens if I break my boat? How do I get home? And how do I get my mate home? So hopefully I've created a logical progression in the programme that you would acquire these tools along the way. I think one of the interesting aspects for people who haven't sea kayaked before is the fact that it's a different level of physical activity. Many mountaineers and many climbers often migrate to sea kayaking in their latter years because their knees hurt, their ankles hurt. They've probably, worn out their hip joints from stomping on hard rocks all the time. But the other fascinating thing is a lot of mountaineers and climbers use it before that happens because it can get them to places that they wouldn't ordinarily go. A classic trip is the Summer Isles. You can load up your sea kayak with your climbing gear, and there's some amazing little rock faces to climb on, possibly never been charted in terms of guidebooks, but you can feel like you're the first person to have climbed there, having taken the adventure of getting there in your sea kayak.
The Summer Isles being up by Ullapool on the northwest coast of Scotland. Well, we're going to bring this to a close because I can just hear this place is starting to wake up a bit now. People coming down for breakfast to get ready for the day. But if I want to ask someone else and take this further a little bit more about why sea kayaking is starting to take off big style among hill walkers, who'd be a good person to talk to and why?
I would pick Nick Cunliffe. He's a long-standing practitioner. He has a well-established business in Llanberis where he can act as an outfitter, but also a trainer, assessor in these skills of sea kayaking. He has a very broad range of knowledge, not only about sea kayaking, but also understanding why people are attracted to it from other disciplines, and also for a first-time starter.
Well, my name's Nick Cunliffe, and I live in North Wales. I run my own business called Surf Lines. We're based in Llanberis, and most of the sea kayaking we do is on the Anglesey coastline. I've been living in North Wales for about 15 years now, and I discovered the sport when I arrived in North Wales. So that's my background, really. I'm a sea kayaker principally, although I used to do a lot of whitewater paddling, but it's all about being on the sea these days.
Why do you think it is that sea kayaking seems to be taking off and more people are discovering it?
I suppose that there's a number of reasons for that. One is that there's an increased interest in canoe sport in general. You look at whitewater paddling, open boating, sea kayaking. I think more and more people are becoming aware that it's a great way to spend your leisure time. And because of that, given that sea kayaking was always a minority aspect of canoe sport, more and more people are recognising the opportunities that exist. In the UK, we've none of the access problems that we have on inland waters. We've got a fantastic coastline, and there's any number of places to go and paddle on any given day in the year. The equipment is far better than it used to be. There's a huge variety of boats available for all ability levels, so even if people are relatively inexperienced, they can still access the sea and they can progress and develop.
That progression and development is important, because I remember the first time you sit in a sea kayak, and it wasn't that long ago for me, is you do tick up the strokes and you're moving. You're instantly making progress. That really kind of catches people, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And people's perception of the sport is very much coloured by their first experiences, to the extent that when we run introductory courses at our own business, we try and put people in straight running touring boats initially, so they don't have any of the straight line problems. We might take them out on very sheltered waters, either inland or at the coast, and their first experience of the sport is that they're travelling somewhere, they're getting to experience one of the best aspects of kayaking, which is going on a journey, and they can do that on the very first day.
And you're not following a footpath, are you? That's something else. It's not like hundreds of people have been here before you. Nobody's ever left a footprint on a wave.
Yeah, and even if they had, well, there's no evidence of that. So although many of the venues are popular, you don't get any of the crowding that you see in the hills. A typical sea kayaking day for us in North Wales, even though it's a popular place for people to paddle, we might see one or two other groups. We might be alone at our chosen venue, and we don't get any of the sense of sharing the environment with hundreds of other people.
And when you camp out, that's repeated as well, because you're in a place that's very unlikely you're going to have somebody else in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that adds to the attraction that people feel for the sport. There's one other reason I think that sea kayaking is becoming more popular, and that's simply that the media is waking up to this fact. They're marketing the sport more on our behalf. You read far more articles about the joys of sea kayaking. People travel the world and they go and experience these amazing adventures in places like New Zealand and Indonesia and so on, and they come back saying, hey, I sat in a kayak in the most beautiful place in the world. I might do some more of that when I get back to the UK.
And then they discover that North Wales and Scotland have actually world-class sea kayaking. And there are people here who've come from New York just to paddle these conditions.
Yeah, precisely. And we're able to say in all honesty that some of the best kayaking in the world is in UK waters. And that's a great advantage to people like myself who try and earn a living from the sport.
That was Nick Cunliffe of Surf Lines, and there are good coaches all over the UK who can get you started. Some have done podcasts, and you can find those at seakayakroots.com. But be warned, sea kayaking is highly addictive. I speak from experience. So from starting sea kayaking to the other end of the scale, big expeditions. Barry Shaw paddled around mainland Britain in record time. We'll hear from him in a moment. First, we'll hear about an amazing route paddled on the opposite side of the world. This is Jeff Allen.
The trip that we did was to circumnavigate South Georgia. What made South Georgia so special is that people had been sort of putting it up there as sort of like the Mount Everest of sea kayaking or the K2 of sea kayaking for a long time. We had some competition. We hoped to be the first, but we weren't the first. We were pipped to the post by a New Zealand team. But we managed to knock a fair chunk of their time out of it.
So it's now become a race.
Well, it wasn't a race that we were competing in. There was a little bit of sort of skullduggery going on. We didn't realise that they were going, and they changed their dates, and they popped in there just before we got there. But it would have been bad seamanship to have turned it into a race. You'd have been taking unnecessary risks in a potentially volatile area. But what made it so special is it's a very small remote island in the South Atlantic, and it's the first lee shore down in the Screaming 50s, as they call it. It's regarded as the most inhospitable lee shore on the planet, and it was a special place. Special for its scenery, special for the wildlife, special for the weather conditions down there.
What was it like? Can you put into words what it was like? I mean, could you land anywhere? What was it like for camping? I mean, what was the whole event?
The landing was extremely difficult because of the wildlife on the north coast. Big bull elephant seals, marauding fur seals, which were very territorial, and just the conditions on the south coast. As I say, it is a really bad lee shore. It has probably the biggest swell factor on the planet. It has these enormous swells that actually roll into the south coast of South Georgia.
For non-sea kayakers, how big are we talking about here?
Well, when we left from Port Stanley and started sailing across, we was sailing in 15 metre seas, so that's 45 feet. So that's a big swell when you actually consider it's going to be breaking across reefs onto dumping shores, with a lot of sort of like ice in the water as well. Makes it quite an inhospitable environment. But we were gifted. We got down there and we expected to sort of like be brace into the challenge, so to speak. And we were gifted by a high pressure zone that came over. And we didn't just have the opportunity of paddling down this seldom sort of travelled remote coastline. We actually had the opportunity to explore it as well, which is a big thing down there, like, you know.
So what was it like when you really got into it and see it? Or we talk about cliffs, or...?
Yeah, you're talking about some very remote stretches of coastline, massive cliffs, glaciers, a lot of ice melt, wildlife in the water. We saw numerous whales and seals. And the seals down there, they're not like your Commonwealth Garden Atlantic grey seal. You know, they're sort of... the fur seals sort of always reminded me as being ferrets without legs. You know, they were very mischievous, but with a very nasty bite as well.
Not scared of humans at all, presumably?
No, they're not. In any way, shape or form.
How did you get there?
That was an epic journey in itself. We flew from London to Madrid, Madrid to Santiago down to Punta Arenas into Port Stanley, and then we had a 4.5-5 day sail from Port Stanley down to Grytviken. It was an epic journey.
And your boats?
Our boats were transported down a good month or two beforehand.
And how long did it take in the end?
We managed to do it in 13 days and 8 hours, which sort of knocked about 10 days off of the Kiwis' time. Were
you rushing, or was that about the right time to enjoy the decent high pressure that you had?
Well, we got stormbound for 2 days during that period of time. And we certainly didn't rush. We knew that on the south coast we had to make hay while the sun shone. It was a case of realising that you was on a very dodgy stretch of coastline, and we didn't hang around, but we made sure that we did explore, and we did see the coastline as well. It's like walking on that knife edge, you know, it's sort of balancing the goods.
So today, here on Mull, was going out round Iona rather tame for you?
I certainly wouldn't say it was tame. I think you can receive some pretty severe conditions anywhere in the globe, but it was, we did meet more severe conditions.
You've got a thing for islands. You did Japan.
Yeah.
You've done South Georgia.
Yeah.
Next?
Norway. I'm hoping to go down.
Norway's not an island.
No, it's not, but we are looking into the idea of circumnavigating Norway and Sweden by paddling up from Oslo up to Nordkapp, and then skiing across to the Gulf of Bothnia, and then paddling down the Gulf of Bothnia.
Dragging your sea kayaks behind you as well?
Yeah, like a polk, yeah, along those lines. Wow. But whether we can do that all in one season, it'll probably be another 2-hit expedition, a bit like Japan, yeah.
I'm Barry Shaw. I was a postman for 16 years, and I just, a couple of years ago, I got together with a friend, Harry Whelan from London, and we decided to do a trip around Britain. No particular reason, we just both fancied doing it. We thought about it for quite a while, and we started talking about it and discussing it, planning it, and then about a year before we did it, we met up with a guy called Phil Clegg, and we decided to ask him to come along. He seemed really interested in the trip, and the three of us sort of gelled really well, especially on the water. The three of us we were all completely different characters, and we all got on really well.
Did you set yourself any rules as to what counted as Britain?
We just wanted to do mainland Britain, really. We weren't interested in going around Ireland as well. We didn't have any rules at all. It was just do what we wanted to do, and that was it. We weren't trying to achieve... We just going for our own enjoyment, really.
And you set a heck of a record, didn't you?
Yeah, it was done first by Nigel Dennis and Paul Caffin in 1980, and they did it in 85 days. And Nigel gave us the boats to do it, and we were chatting to him, and he was... they did it in 85 days, and he said that no one's done it that quick since. So we thought, well, we'll see how quick we can do it. And as the trip went on, we thought, well, we're doing okay here. Maybe we'll try and beat that time. But when it first started off, it wasn't really a record-breaking trip. It was,
did you succeed?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We did it. We knocked 5 days off his time.
So you paddled around Britain in 80 days?
80 days, yeah. Which is quite funny because you just don't have a clue what the weather's going to do and what mileage you're going to be able to get in. And Phil, he said, as we started off, he said, I reckon we're going to do this trip in 80 days. And he kept saying 80 days all the way through, and that's what we did, you know. And we weren't trying to do it in 80 days. We just couldn't do that. You know, we just did whatever mileage we could each day, depending on the weather.
Were there any days when you didn't go out? Were there any days when you just had to cut your time short, or do you just go for it regardless?
No, we got out of the 80 days, I think it was 8 days off the water that we had. We were storm-bound. So
you were paddling for 72 days?
Yeah.
Solid. That's a hell of a lot of paddling.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody's been for a 2-week holiday paddling, at the end of 14 days your arms are tired.
Yeah, but I mean, I was completely worn out.
What was the best bit?
The best bit. I really enjoyed the first day as we left. At the end of
the last day.
The first day, I was buzzing on the last day.
Yeah. It was just those other 78 days in between that were a pain.
Oh, that was awful. No, I'm only joking. No, we had some bad times, and we had some absolutely fantastic times.
Now, before we came outside to do this, we're at the storm gathering here on Mull. Some of your coaching colleagues here said to me, "You've got to ask them about the other record they set."
The other record?
That was the beer. Because they reckon... Yes, I was talking to Nick, and Nick said to me that they worked out that since you weren't drinking, your two mates consumed 400 pints?
Well,
or was it more than that?
It was, well...
Or was Nick exaggerating?
No, he's not exaggerating. No, I think he's probably underestimated. No, I wasn't. I was teetotal for the whole trip. And Harry and Phil, they like their Guinness, and to be honest with you, they find it gives them a lot of energy on the water.
That's good carbohydrates.
Yeah, it was working.
Would you do anything like this again? Have you got any other plans to do something like this?
Jeff and I have been talking about doing the coast of Norway next summer. So if that comes off, that should be a good trip, because he's a good lad to paddle with. So, and he's got a lot of expedition experience as well.
You're listening to a podcast for the Outdoors Channel in association with SeaKayakRoutes.com, coming from the first Storm Gathering, a sea kayak symposium on the Hebridean island of Mull. Earlier we heard how sea kayaking has been gaining in popularity. In part, I think that's been down to a couple of excellent DVDs, which really capture all the different spirits of this sport, from playing in big seas to expeditions in remote places. The DVDs are called This is the Sea 1 and 2, and I'm about to meet the woman who films them.
Hi, I'm Justine Kergenven. I'm here mainly because I'm a filmmaker. I make DVDs and about sea kayaking, and so I was invited by Mark to come along primarily just to film. Been filming at the Falls of Laura and the Grey Dogs, which are two fantastic Scottish tidal races, filming some really good paddlers just strutting their stuff on there. So I've just come to the Storm Gathering at Mull for the weekend just to hang out with lots of fun people and do some paddling on this beautiful island.
Has anybody done DVDs like yours before? Because I remember the first one, it seemed really kind of different, because it was this mixture of playing, and I remember seeing canoeing videos where people were leaping off waterfalls and stuff like that. But I hadn't seen that with sea kayaks, and it also introduced the whole idea of expeditions as well, so you managed to combine stories with images, and that was quite captivating.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think I did spot there was a niche, a gap in the market there. And I actually, first of all, made a couple of promotional videos for Lendl and for NDK, Nigel Dennis Kayaks. And they went down really well with people, even though they were blatant promotion, people still really liked it. And so I thought, there's a definite gap in the market here. There isn't anyone showing how exciting sea kayaking is, and the variety of people that are involved, and the places you can go to, and these, an insight into expedition life and what it's all about, because most people don't have a clue. So I spotted that gap, and I also began to be invited to symposiums at different places around the world because I was filming. So I managed to go to California and Georgia and Florida and places like that, and just filmed them and collected all this really good footage. So I thought, right, I'm going to make a DVD, I'm going to try it. It was a bit scary at first because it took me an awful lot of time to do it, even though it didn't cost me that much, because most of the places I went to didn't, my expenses were paid, but it was just time, and I didn't have any money. I was running out of any savings that I did have. But I sort of had faith in it and started selling it, and eventually it sort of caught on. Initially, when I phoned up shops, I said, I've got a sea kayaking video for you, it's really exciting, and you just felt the people switch off on the phone. It's like, right, sea kayaking and exciting in the same sentence? I don't think so. And but now I've got people phoning me up and emailing me saying, when's the third one out? We want to pre-order 20, make sure we get it first, can we have an exclusive deal? And it's great. It's really changed. I'd like to think it has actually changed a lot of people's perception of sea kayaking, which I think is fantastic.
It's also quite good for somebody who is new to it to think, I might be interested in that, could take a look at that and then go, oh, so that's what it's about. And you see the whole dimension of it from playing about in tidal races that you will not do if you're a beginner, but to going out and just enjoying an expedition.
Yeah, I think it's good to show people the potential, show people, and inspire people by what some of the best sea kayakers are able to get out there and do. And some people will go, oh my God, no way. And and others will go, I'd like to do that. I reckon I could do that one day. And it gives them something to aspire to. And I do think, I quite like the fact that the DVDs are sort of individual little segments on a different place or a different person or a particular expedition. Some people say it should all just be rough water, I don't even want any talking. And other people will be like, I really like the stories, I really like getting to know the people and the variety of people involved. And a lot of people really like the expeditions, because I think that's quite hard to film. I've developed a special system to do that, and it's quite hard work to film while you're also tired. And
that's what I was going to ask you. How did you get into this? And then also, how did you develop the skills and also the technical thing? Because, I know I work for the BBC, and I know that cameras and water don't mix. Anybody knows cameras and water don't mix. And yet here you are, putting cameras in the wettest place you could possibly imagine.
Well, I've had a lot of help from a guy in Lowestoft, Extreme Vision Systems, Tony Smith, and he's been fantastic. He actually initially designed a waterproof camera system for Pete Bray, who kayaked across the Atlantic. And Pete put me in touch with Tony, and I said, I'm getting into kayak filming. I really need a proper waterproof system so I can get shots that other people can't get. And it went from there, really, and he developed a system for me which is completely waterproof connectors, a little waterproof monitor, waterproof microphone, and a very small waterproof camera. So it's great. You could throw it all in the sea, and it's fine, and it's very robust. He says it's easy to make things foolproof. It's hard to make things Justine-proof. So I'm his crash test dummy, if you like. If I can't break it, then it's pretty good. That it means that probably no one else can as well.
But you have it also on that stalk, don't you? So you can get those great shots into people's faces or their point of view.
Well, I quite soon realised that I first of all started off with just a big camera in a waterproof housing underneath my deck lines, and one that was really scary because you've got a big expensive camera underneath your deck lines, and it's also fairly heavy and it gets in the way, and I was worried that I'd ruin the camera, that I'd lose the camera, that it would stop me rolling, all that sort of thing. And also being so low, you don't get a very good perspective because you're looking up if you're looking up at a paddler, so you don't really see the waves behind them very well.
It's not a very flattering shot either, is it?
No, exactly. And if you're looking forward, you've got a very limited view. We've all seen the bow crashing down into the waves. It's quite interesting for 5-10 seconds, but then that's all you get. So I realised I needed to get it about up at eye level, and so I needed a system of attaching a waterproof camera, at that sort of level. And I also realised that, when things get tricky is when you want to be filming, and that's when you can't be holding any camera in your hand, so it needs to be permanently mounted there somehow. And initially I thought about having a permanent mount on my kayak, but then thought, well, that's pretty inflexible. I'd like to have a mount I can move onto other people's kayaks. I can move on the front of my kayak, the back of my kayak. And I came up with the sort of suction pad idea, which is what I use now. And it's like the suction pads people used to move glass or carry glass. You just whack it on the kayak. You just need a flat area of kayak, pull a lever, and it sticks solid. I do have a little clip to clip it on just in case, but...
And the arm sticks out the top?
Yeah, the arm sticks out the top, but there's a ball and socket joint at the bottom, so it can rotate around 360 degrees. So you can actually extend the pole down so that it's right on the water, looking forward at the bow crashing or looking back at the paddle. It's really very flexible. It rotates through 360 degrees in 3 dimensions, and it extends. So you can get an incredible variety of shots, which is really important, if you're trying to tell a story. My background actually is as a journalist. I was a TV journalist for 2 years, and I think that's really helped me in being able to tell a story, which I think is what some sort of inspirational action DVDs lack. In other sports, it's just action and rock music. And personally, I find that a bit much after a while. It's really exciting for a bit, but I think if you can develop a story and a narrative, then it becomes much more interesting and can capture a larger audience. There'll always be some people that are happy just to hear the crashing and the banging and seeing the big exciting things. But I want to capture people that aren't just the complete, die-hard sea kayaking addicts. It would be great to interest everybody, really. And it's nice to when people say to me, I showed it to my mother and she doesn't like sea kayaking, but she thought it was fantastic. Or, I showed it to my 6-year-old kid. And a lot of people's children really like the bears in the Kamchatka in the first one, or the big waves and things like that. And, they get really into it. And that's really nice for me when non-sea kayakers enjoy it.
Have you been filming on that big trip you've just been doing? You went up north, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Is that going to be the next one?
Yes. Alan and I, I was invited to Shetland Sea Kayaking Symposium as a speaker, so we decided, we might as well paddle there. So we kayaked there from mainland Scotland, took about 10 days via Orkney and Fair Isle, and we literally kayaked to the door of the symposium the day before it started, so that was quite cool. And then we spent a week paddling in Shetland, which is really beautiful as well. And then we took the ferry to the Faroe Islands and spent 2.5 weeks paddling there. So we had a nice 5-6 weeks this summer of kayaking, which was really great. And yeah, I filmed everything, so it should all be in the video. I mean, I haven't started editing yet, so I haven't watched the footage, so I think it should be. You just have to, you never know quite until you. I'm pretty sure there'll be something in from all of them. You just don't know how long they're going to be till you see what you've got.
And if that caught your imagination, you might like to know Justine's new DVD, This is the Sea 3, comes out in March 2007. Part of which has been filmed here. I'm back with the organiser of the Storm Gathering on Mull, Mark Tozer. Well, everybody turned up eventually, didn't they? They've been out in the water. Are you feeling a little bit more relaxed than last time we spoke?
Oh, I think my mood state has massively relaxed over the last few days. Actually getting people to gather together has been a fantastic experience, and what I need to keep an eye on is the bigger picture and realise that the little hitches are just little hitches, and the opportunity that we've given people to take their skills further, to really extend themselves in challenging conditions and encourage them to come back for more has been wonderful to be able to facilitate that.
The whole idea is that this becomes a travelling event. Where's the next one, and will you be organising it?
Yes, the principle behind it is to ensure that it's a gathering, and gatherings occur all over the place. I think it's only fair that we take the pressure off one place and move on to the next, and that the local community gains from it. The next event is going to be in Lewis, and there are a team of people already organising, and they've asked me very kindly to be the consultant for it, which I've happily agreed to, because as a one-man show organising, it can be a bit of a headache.
Lewis is going to be as windy as this place?
I get the feeling that Lewis could be very windy. However, they will have plenty of fallback options.
That's why they call it the Storm Gathering.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we need to think about is how we ensure that everybody gets the suitable experience they want and they come away happy, and that they can go home and say, I'm a storm paddler now, definitely.
Mark, thanks for a great symposium. That's all for now, but for more sea kayaking podcasts, check out seakayakroutes.com. I'm Simon Willis. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
My thanks go to Simon Willis for compiling such a cracking programme. It certainly is an addictive hobby, and even though I've only been out myself for a taster weekend, I can see how easy it is to get completely hooked. Once again, our feedback number is 020-8133-9434, and do leave us a message or any suggestions as to the content of this programme or any others. This is Bob Cartwright from the Outdoors Channel, wishing you safe travelling, whatever method you choose.
Call now on this number.
020-8133-9434.
Call me anytime you want.
This podcast is produced and hosted by the Outdoors Channel. To find out more, visit theoutdoorschannel.co.uk.